Hello, everyone. Welcome to another episode of The Green Factor, a show where we talk about green design and the business of sustainability. I'm your host, Haris the Green Carpenter, and today we'll be talking about online authority building. With me today, we have a special guest, Mr. Amin from Popcorn. Hi, Amin.
Hello, what's going on, brother? It's good to be here.
Welcome to the 60th episode.
So fast, right? 60th. You started this like,
Every week,
how long was it?
every week, last year.
Every week. Last year,
Yeah.
wow. Congratulations to
So
you.
it started not every week. I think it started I think just to give context to our viewers lah. I met Amin 2020, mid 2020. I think that is when I joined the course, linking course. But I think few years before we already have connection. We've been friends. Not that close, but we know we keep in touch and all that. And then during COVID, I decided, okay, since we cannot move as much, right? So might as well find ways to move online. So I've been looking into LinkedIn, being active on LinkedIn for quite some time. So your class at that time was timely lah. So that's why I didn't take much time to join. So it was like mid 2020. So now I
Yeah.
think like about two years already, nearing 2 years lah. I mean 1.5 years, something like that. So and at that time as well, I was toying with the idea of making a podcast and also podcast lah. Initially, I want to do podcast. I don't want to do live show, but then I don't know. Suddenly, like the live show, not opportunity, but the live show thing becoming reality easier, or I don't know. At that time, we were talking lah. Remember that time? And then I decided, okay, I need to do my first episode, and then first, and I think it took me like 2 weeks, and then 2 weeks, and then after a while it becomes a weekly thing. So now it's becoming more and more bigger part of what I do. So that's why like I decided to invite you after 60 episode just to check up on you and also like share with my network like how has it changed since then, right? So that's basically why I'm bringing Amin lah, because he's been doing this for quite some time. So I want our audience to have at least some insight into what's happening right now. So I mean, before we continue with the topic of authority building, for the benefit of our viewers, why don't you introduce yourself and the
Okay.
journey you've gone through?
Okay. So basically, right now, currently, what I'm doing is that I'm the CEO of Popcorn. So Popcorn is not the popcorn that you eat in the cinema. Popcorn stands for popular content. A little bit of history of Popcorn. We started way back unofficially. We started way back in 2018. Yeah. At that time, when we started Popcorn, it was a place for people who wants to learn more about how they can actually build their presence online to come for our community event, right? The reason why we started that at that time was going back before Popcorn, I have been in training and development industry for I think about more than 20 plus over years. Towards the end of that 20th year, I was having like a major identical crisis. I was getting like really tired with what I'm doing. One of the biggest challenge that I had at that time was that my business was at a very stagnant level. Yeah. I'm working more, but I'm not getting enough returns in terms of the money. Yeah. And what I found as it's like a big like aha moment for me at that time was my brand, nobody knows me outside of my circle. I think that's something that is like a big it's like a big moment for me, because the moment I found out about that, I was like, damn man, I'm losing a lot of these clients to a lot of my competitors, because my competitors was going out there really going through the hustle of building up their brand and building up their authority using all of the social media platform. So for me at that time, I was using social media platform merely as a place for me to rant about stuff, especially when it comes to politics. I've not been leveraging on social media since the time I use it until that moment. And I start to realize that, hey, I need to do something different. I need to do something that can really benefit me. And I need to leverage on all of this tool that's available just in front of me. So I decided to jump into learning more about building my brand on social media. So at that time, when I was just starting, there were a few things that I was looking at. I was looking at ways of how I can learn to do content, how to schedule my content, how to actually really leverage on social media. Because at that moment, at that time, this is way back in 2016, 2017. My knowledge on social media is almost zero. The only thing that I know to do is just to comment on posts, share ridiculous stuff, not really closing anything online, have not been getting any results. And I decided, you know what, I need to change all of that. I need to learn on how to really leverage it. But at the same time, I didn't know where to start. So that's when I actually connected with a few close friends. We talk about it, and I start to notice that most of these close friends that I have are also having the same problem, challenges, and issue exactly like what I'm going through. They just do not know how to leverage. They do not know how to write content. They do not know how to effectively promote themselves, how to brand themselves. But my strength, our strength at that time, as a friend, is that we are very good at managing and running events, because I've been in training and development industry for the last 20 plus of years. And we were like, okay, you know what? Maybe we can leverage on this. Let's just start creating event where we can invite all of these people that's really good in building their brand online, like all of these influencers, all these practitioners, all these people who are already being seen as an authority in the industry. We invite them to come for our event, and then we learn from them. And then we just run the event for free. That was the initial idea. And we did that. For the first 2 years, we kind of like just go all out to just run the event while working our day job. And at the same time, inviting people to come to the event, inviting speakers to come in. And that 2 years that we actually spend our time with all of these influencers, practitioners, we kind of like develop our skill as well. And we start practicing and applying it into our own business. And we start to see a lot of growth in terms of our brand building. LinkedIn for me only came in a little bit later in the year 2018, because we invited this one other mentor. His name is Yandaro Al Amien. You guys should follow him. I think he is a brilliant teacher and also coach as well on LinkedIn. So I was introduced to reintroduced back to LinkedIn because of Dori. I had a LinkedIn account since the year 2000, and I think 2007 I started my LinkedIn account, but I never looked into it again. It basically become dormant. Yeah. So with Norit, I start to realize that, hey, I've been like doing all my branding in the wrong way, because one thing that I've also learned is that I'm a solopreneur. So as a solopreneur, I don't have much time. Yeah. My time is really valuable, but I'm trying to promote and market myself in all of the social media platforms at the same time. That was one of the biggest mistakes I did. Yeah. With Norit, I started to realize and learn that, hey, you know what? I need to start to learn to become very focused in terms of my authority building and my brand building. Rather than trying to go into all platforms, it's always better to identify which is the best platform that I can start with, and I can connect with the people that I can basically engage with to either sell my product, right, to serve them better, and also to find a group of people that I can relate to, right? And I start to study back all of these platforms that I have. And after talking to Norit, I start to realize, hey, you know what? Actually, my market is LinkedIn. So that's when I started to be super active in LinkedIn. So in early 2018, we decided to go all out on LinkedIn, right? It's just the people in Popcorn, and also including myself, we decided to go all out on LinkedIn. And into somewhere in the end of 2018, we because we are so active on LinkedIn, even people on LinkedIn start to notice us. We got invited to become their strategic partner in Malaysia. So for about 1 year with their strategic partner in Malaysia, we were basically selling LinkedIn product as well. That's why we harness our skill in terms of how we can actually build our brand and also authority through LinkedIn. And then when COVID happened, this is really interesting, because when COVID happened, before COVID in the early 2020, we kickstart our LinkedIn program, because we start to realize that, hey, a lot of other people that is also like us, they have no idea on how to position themselves. We started to do classes. We did our first face-to-face classes, and then after that, COVID happened. And then after that, we decided, hey, you know what? Let's start doing everything online. And then we started to have like people like Hari to come in. So in the last 3 years, what we do is that we've actually helped a lot of entrepreneurs to support them in their brand building journey, in their authority building journey, specifically on the LinkedIn platform, right? And basically that's our story, and that's the reason why we got connected to people like Harith, right? And a lot of our community members. So since we started in 2020 until now, we've trained in total, including the corporate side and also our public program, I think more than about 1,000 plus over people. But within our community itself, we have about 200 plus over people within our community who are consistently coming back to us and also learning as well. So that's what we do in Popcorn. Basically, we help entrepreneurs to build their authority online.
Yeah, I think like just to share a little bit of context here, because I've been working on brand building things since early 2012, I think, something like that. So I did a lot of things. I know that brand is important, so that's why we created brands. But and then along the way, it's like you have to do personal branding. So it's branding, but now personal. Before this is about product and companies, right? So
Yeah.
then it's like another type of branding. So there's a lot of different and more trial and error. I've done so much. I've done in Instagram, on Facebook, and all that. So I think just to be clear, what are your thoughts in terms of business branding and personal branding, and where do you stand in this question, lah?
Okay. My stand for this, before I talk about my stand, I think it's also very important for the audience to also understand. Now, I'm coming from an angle. First thing first, I need to highlight this. I am not a personal branding guru. Let me highlight that one first. Okay. There are a lot of other more qualified personal branding guru out there that you can talk to. I am going to come from an angle of an entrepreneur and a practitioner. So for me, before I talk about the distinction between both business branding and personal branding, it's also very important for us to understand what branding is. So in a nutshell, branding is as simple as this. It's what people talk about when you are not in the room. Yeah. So the most important idea when it comes to that particular statement is that each and every one of us might have a different opinion about what people think about us compared to what other people actually thinks. Yeah. So when there's a mismatch in terms of the perception, that's when the personal branding becomes either personal branding or business branding becomes like haywire. Yeah. So what do we do in order for us to be able to build our brand? The idea is to build the consistency in terms of the perception. So if I want to position myself in terms of personal branding as someone who is very confident, someone who is honest, someone who is direct to the point, right? It has to be congruent and consistent in everything that I do. So when you meet me online and when you meet me offline, is the same thing, right? So that one is on personal branding. On the business side, it's the same thing as well. If your company, one of your core value is, is sustainability, and it's about promoting green culture, but then your operations and whatever that you do in the company, right, goes against everything that you say, that one, the branding is a bit off already. Yeah. So for me, what is the so where do you need to prioritize, right? I personally will vouch for both. Okay, both personal branding and business branding. But I would look into the approach in terms of how you want to do it first. The idea is if you just focus on the business branding aspect on things, what will happen is that it becomes very cold down. Because the thing about business branding is that a lot of times what you do is that you talk about the value of the company, you talk about the logo, you talk about what does your company do and all that. But when you add in the element of personal branding into the business branding, it becomes like it's like it completes itself. It completes each other. Yeah. So for me, what is the difference between business branding and personal branding? if you want to kickstart your journey as a solopreneur, I always advise people to focus on the personal branding side first, right? Because people want to know you as a person, and then slowly build the company brand. That's how I see it. Yeah. Why do I say that? Because for me, I'm a very practical person. I personally feel that personal branding is easier to manage compared to business branding. Okay, that's how I see it. Because the thing about personal branding, when you are just starting, you are the main person to manage everything. So you can basically do how you want to be seen, what you want to do, everything, right? You can still manage it from your own. But the moment you want to build a company brand, right, it requires a lot more thinking because it involves everyone within the company. Yeah. So everyone needs to align to the culture and the brand of the company. So example, okay, Harith, let's do this, right? So for the Green Factory, what are the core value that you have in the Green Factory? In the Green Factory,
So for
what are the core
us,
value?
we work on sustainability, design, and also youth development lah.
Mm. In that 1 year, you don't do all of that activity. It's no longer in alignment to your brand, right? Right?
Correct,
If
correct.
your people don't believe in it and then they do something which is totally the opposite, then it's not going to work, isn't it? See? So for me, company branding or business branding takes a little bit more work compared to the personal branding side. So if you are just starting, I always encourage you to start on the personal branding side. And the way you want to position it is that, like eAsia, for example, when you talk about eAsia, who's the main person that you always remember? It's always Tony, right? So when you combine both, what you're doing is that you're humanizing the company. So the company has a face into it. So both will work really, really well. And imagine this, if every single employee that you have, right, also build their brand while talking about your company at the same time. So that's like a double whammy. You see? Because everyone within this organization itself are actually talking about the brand together. But all of that to start, I always feel that personal branding is the best way to kickstart everything.
Awesome, awesome.
Mm.
I think I had a similar, not a similar, a different kind of starting point. Because when I start with Harris Green Carpenter as a brand, a business brand. So what I noticed is I make product under the Harris Green Carpenter brand, then I say product. And then when it's time to scale up, there's a problem because people only wants to deal with Harris, so they don't want to deal my team. So what then I have to make a conscious decision quite recently to detach both. So Harris Green Carpenter becomes a personal brand, and then we have the Green Factory, Dapurware, and other things as product brand. So if the business brand, they want to deal with the business, that deal with my team. And if they want to deal on a personal level or like activism and all that, it's like under my brand. So I think that a lot of those learning lah, but you learn on the job lah.
Kan?
Yeah. So
Exactly.
I think the next question will be more on the topic, which is authority building. So in why have you been promoting authority, and what is it about actually?
I think my challenge when one thing about me, because I used to come from a very hardcore sales background, right? And this is something that I've done even before I was in training and development. It's always about the number of people that you meet, the number of calls that you have, and then from there you will have a certain number amount of meeting, and from the certain number amount of meeting you will have a certain number amount of closings, right? So I come from that environment, and one thing that I start to realize is that in the last 10 years, not just 10 years, I think the moment social media comes in, people are now becoming smarter. They are a lot of individuals now are more, they in a way, how do I say this? They will do their research first before they come in and buy a product. They're smarter lah. Yeah. So if you want to sell to a group of smarter individuals, right, or people, or group of people, you have to realize that the way you do things before this cannot be applied in today's environment, right? I give you a simple example on this. If someone were to call you on your mobile phone, and then when they receive that call, it is a number that they've never seen before, or they have no idea who's calling them, or worst thing is they actually install an app in their smartphone that can actually identify that this is either a spammer or someone is trying to sell them something. I always get that kind of call from banks. Yeah. Most of the time, I would say about 90% of the time, you would just ignore the call and you do not want to answer the call. Yeah. So those direct approach of just directly going to people and just selling stuff. And I noticed that a lot of people are doing that on all the social media platforms as well. Facebook, LinkedIn, they are doing that, right? First message that they send to you, don't even say hi, don't even want to get to know you first. They're immediately trying to sell you something. That model does not work anymore, right? So I was like really studying and looking at it. Okay, what would be the best model that can get people to, at the end of the day, want to say yes to me? Yeah. The model in which by the time I am having a meeting with someone, that person is already 50% sold with the idea of using my service and also to engage me to support them in terms of whatever they wanted to do. Yeah. So that was my goal. How do I do that? How do I actually get an effective meeting where people, by the time I am sitting down in front of them, they wanted to buy? And this is where I start to realize that in order for you to be able to get that kind of response, there's a lot of pre-work that you need to do. And what are the pre-work? The brand building side of things, understanding the core value of your brand, understanding what you stand for, understanding what will be your brand voice, who you are targeting specifically, who's your ideal client. I mean, making sure that the clarity of the brand is there. And then there's the activity where you need to start to build your authority first. Because here's the thing that I noticed. The moment you build your authority and you're being seen as the subject matter expert within your industry, you will start to realize that rather than you trying to approach people, people are going to be approaching you as well because you are being seen as the subject matter expert. Your voice matters. What you say has context. What you say, in a way, can influence people's decision, right? So in order for you to be able to achieve that status of becoming an authority in your industry, what are the processes that you need to do? Besides getting clear about your personal brand, there's also the consistency of actually creating content online, right? Marketing yourself effectively and efficiently. Being seen in more activities and events, right? Okay. Because when you do all of those activities, then people will start to realize, hey, you know what? If I want to have anything to do with green stuff, Harith will be the next person I want to talk to. If I want to do anything to do with sambal, I don't know if you guys heard of Khairul Amien before. Okay, go to Khairul Amien, right? When you are seen as an authority in a way, you can influence buying decision. So when you have established that as the pre-context, by the time they come and have a conversation with you, either during a presentation or a call, they already know this. You know what? I know deep within myself that this guy can do the work, right? This guy is the main person that I can talk to. So what's the objective? The objective is by the time they want to buy from you, your name is on top of their phone list, right? So that's why I always believe that authority building is definitely the next thing that you really need to start spending your time on, so that when people want to buy, they think of you first, right? The day of spamming no longer happen. Okay, doesn't work anymore.
Yeah. I can agree with that. Like I also receive a lot of those kind of hard selling message and all that, and basically what authority building is, we transitioning into a new age of selling where we attract instead of we knock on their doors and all that. And I've experienced this. I mean, like it's been over these years, people start knocking on my doors instead. we've worked a lot with like brands like Ferrari, Rolls-Royce, Coca-Cola, those kind of brands. They come to us rather than us knocking, hey, we got stuff and all that. So I would say, in a way, that's one of the things that we are doing, authority building as well, and basically carving a niche for ourselves. So like you say, it's also by the time when they come to us, they basically it's 50% there. It's all about the 50% is just about closing. Rather than you go on knock on everyone's door, it's like there's a lot of 0% possibility. So becoming more efficient, I think that's the word lah, in terms of authority building. So yes, we know authority building and then we know why it's important. So let's talk a little bit about tips on building authority, especially now we talk on LinkedIn. So let's go into LinkedIn.
So, what's the tip, right? For me, if there is any strategy, the first fundamental thing that you need to do before anything is to do some groundwork in terms of finding your focus. That's the first thing that you need to do. Yeah. Basically, finding your focus is also about making sure that you are clear in terms of your brand positioning. This is where you need to sit down, be real with yourself, and be honest with yourself in terms of what your goal is. Understanding who your target ideal client is, understanding who you want to sell to, right? Making sure that your product, right, you can communicate your product well, understanding your niche, right? And from there, once you have identified all of that, then the next process is to decide on your niche. Okay. A lot of people, what they do, and I notice, especially people who are in the service industry, either you are a you are in a financial planner, if you are an insurance agent, I noticed this one thing that they like to do. They like to become a jack of all trades, right? Because they have all of this insurance product they're trying to sell to everyone. Okay, that's not the way to do it. If you want to become an authority, you need to become a specialist in one area. Yeah. So rather than trying to become a jack of all trades and master of none, what you want to do is that you want to start focusing on your niche, right? So the game here is to become as specific as you can be. Like example, if I'm selling LinkedIn, right, and I'm trying to promote my LinkedIn product, that is very general. Is a very general way on how to do it. But the best way to do it is to become more specific. Example, who are you selling your LinkedIn product to? Okay, so I'm selling my LinkedIn course to entrepreneurs. Okay, what kind of entrepreneurs are we talking about? Okay, people who are in the service industry. So notice that the more specific you are, the better it becomes, right? So you want to become super focused in terms of your niche. So that's tip number 2. Yeah. Now, once you have identified your niche, you know who you want to sell to. The next thing that you need to decide is to choose on the platform, right? Especially when it comes to online platform. There's just so many online platform right now. The worst mistake that you would want to do when you are just starting is to decide to cut yourself thin and be in every platform at one time. Guys, you don't have much time in one day. That's the one thing that I always tell my students as well. You only have about 24 hours. 1/3 of that is already gone because you need to sleep and you need to rest, right? Then you have another 2/3 of the time that you also need to focus on your business, and you need to focus on a lot of other areas as well in your life. So when you decided early on in the game, when you're just starting to go everywhere, this is where a lot of people become like really tired, because they will do this. They will become like really, really excited in the first 2 to 3 months. They start to post here in TikTok, Facebook, everywhere. But because they don't have a strategy, then at the end of the day, they don't get any results because they're trying to do everything at one time. Then you got burnout, right? But if you decide to choose on one single platform to start, the game is you start with one, you build yourself, and then when you can have enough funds to build a team, then you can start looking into the next platform. That's what I always tell people. Yeah. So choose the right platform, choose the right channel. If your target audience is kids and you're looking at teenagers, TikTok and Instagram could be the place for you. Yeah. If you are looking for people who are a little bit more older generation, it could be Facebook, right? Uncle and auntie could be WhatsApp. Okay. So for me personally, I'm targeting professionals. right? Because I can relate to professionals. So that's the reason why I decided to go on LinkedIn all out. Yeah. So that's the next thing that you want to do. You got to choose the right platform. You got to choose the right channel. And then start thinking about how you can consistently see, listen to the keyword here. You got to be consistent in terms of providing real value to people. And how do you do that? Through your content, through your engagement, by creating content that gets people to be thinking about, wow, this is something that really creates value for me. And I really like this person's point of view, because in a way, your content reflect the kind of person that I want to work with. Yeah. So now, the key word here again, you guys, is the consistency. You have to understand that authority building is not a 100-meter dash. It is a long marathon, right? The moment you stop, you will start to realize, hey, you know what? People don't come to you anymore. Okay, so you got to be really, really consistent. And this is something that I also remind myself as well from time to time. Yeah. Start to create content. Start to also engage with the people that you're connected to, and build relationship, right? Not just with potential clients, but we also with other experts and also influencers within the group of your expertise, or maybe people who is outside of your expertise as well, right? So what you want to do is that you want to build all of this. So I think that would be like a simple guide in terms of what you can actually do. So I'll start again. Number one, get clarity. Okay. Second part is find a focus niche, decide on the platform and the channel, right? And then consistently provide value through your content. And number five is to build your relationship and engage consistently with people through whatever channels that you already provide, that you already choose. Yeah? And from there, if you notice this five, if you've done this five, right, this is the precondition before you actually get them to go for your meetings, presentation, sales, all of that. Do this five, you might be getting some results.
Awesome. I think it sounds simple, but then the execution and all that, you have to dive deeper. But it is that simple. The theory wise, the practical wise, that is where I think going to classes help. I think at least for me. So I think you've touched a little bit about things to avoid. Just now early on, you said doing a lot of things and all that. Let's look into more of those. Like, what are the things that we should avoid?
Okay, I only have one tip for this. I think because there's a lot more tips, but I think this one is something that I really stand true for. Yeah? One thing you want to avoid when you are in authority building mode is to not operate from survival mode. This is a mindset work. Yeah. What do I mean by that? The thing is, for a lot of people, the moment they go into social media, what I start to realize that people are very desperate in their attempt to try to sell. So the focus that they do in terms of the mindset is very transactional. How can I get transaction with the person that I'm connected with, right? So in the last 20 years of doing training, there was this one mentor that I work with. His name is Douglas Alex Shi. At one time, when I was delivering training, I was super tired, super tired. And then he kind of like knocked me out and asked me and tell me this: focus out. Whatever that you do when it comes to working with people, you just got to focus out, right? Because you have to understand that if you're just thinking about you, then you're playing a very small game. But when you start to focus out, the game that you're playing is a bigger game. You're playing a bigger game than your own self. Okay. So when you start to focus out in terms of creating value for people, in terms of supporting people to become better, in terms of solving problems, right? And it's not transactional. I just want to close a deal and sale. Then the game is very different, because you're not trying to push an agenda. You are there because you're sincerely because you care, right? And when you care, you will start to listen to your audience as well. And this is something that a lot of marketers do not get. You need to learn to really listen to your audience. This is something that I kind of like, to give an example of this. I don't know if you are like following all of these comic book movies, right? Like Marvel and also DC. Okay. So if you take a look at Marvel, when they started all the way until where they are now, they've already established an empire there, right? But then you have like another product, which is DC, Superman, Aquaman, and all that, right? But for some reason, they're trying to copy what Marvel is doing, but they are not moving as fast as Marvel. And there's one reason for that, because they don't listen to the audience. Yeah. They try to become something else, and then after that, when the audience come back to them and say, we like this, we don't like this, they don't listen to them. So this is something that I feel is something that's really important, that each and every one of us need to start learning. Listen to your audience, focus out, and not to operate for survival mode. Okay.
Yeah, I think that is something that we can implement directly. I think because I think like for me myself, because I've been doing it for a while, I always look at it's a long game. The longer you can wait to monetize or to ask something, the better it is. But sometimes you have to know when to ask as well. If not, you just become a celebrity that cannot close. Yeah, so I think there are a lot of things that we can do and shouldn't do. So we've gotten some. I think, of course, we will get more if you join. We will join your class. But before we end the show, I think the last question would be like the future of authority building, because we are seeing like technology changing, even method change and all that. So, what are the future of authority building, and what is the future of popcorn as well?
Of authority building is, when you become an authority in your industry, you're also being seen as a community leader. That's how I see it, right? So for me, the community model works really well, because when you start to build your own community and you become a leader of your own tribe, then you can also start to connect with other leaders of other different tribe as well. Yeah. Um, the thing is, you have to understand that uh, the nature of human is very communal. Right? And when you start to build your authority and it's just playing a solo game, right, then it's not going to be very beneficial, because you need to start thinking from a leadership angle and perspective. It's not just about you promoting a product and all that, but how you can actually make a difference to your own community. And for us at Popcorn, this is something that we really believe in. We believe that at the end of the day, as much as there's dollar and cents to whatever that we are doing, but we want to build a community that's very supportive, and then we need to have like our own cause as well. What's our team? What's our cause? Like for you, for example, Harith, your main agenda at the end of the day is sustainability, right? That's what you're passionate about. For me, my passion would be about getting the right people to speak the right thing. Because what I notice about social media, right, there's a lot of people out there using social media for the wrong things, right? But if I can do my part to support as many people as I can, to overcome all of those voices with positive stuff, I think I've done my job really. So going back to that, right? At the end of the day, yeah, I know, I get it. There's dollars and cents, but if there is a cause, a purpose for you to do all of this, what would that be? What would get you to want to wake up every morning and feel excited about stuff? Okay. So that's how I see it. It's community, guys.
Yeah, so I think you said quite rightly, community, and the way we are moving right now is not about having working alone, right? It's always working
Hmm.
together and growing together. And even our competitors, they are not necessarily our competitors; they can also become our ally. So the new way of thinking, not new way lah, but a recent ways of thinking is more towards that. So it's in a way it's more harmonized compared to last time where it's dog's world, right? So I think it's good to wrap it up in that note. If you want to know more about Amin and what they do, you can connect with him on LinkedIn. Um, Popcorn also have a group, a Facebook group called Authority on LinkedIn. So do join it, and they have a lot of free stuff. I think what I love about you guys as well, you can give out free stuff, free advice, and all that. And if someone need additional support, then they can join your other classes as well. So do join the Facebook group and learn together, learn with me together, because I'm also learning as well. So connect with him, be in the Facebook, and if you find this session beneficial, share with your friends. If you want to continue learning, follow us, follow me, Aris Green Carpenter, or the Green Factor on LinkedIn, on Facebook, and even YouTube. And thank you very much, Amin, for spending your time. I appreciate it. And thank you, guys, the audience, for tuning in. Um, hope to see you next week, the same time. And as always, have a green week ahead. Bye bye, guys.